Ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, non-binary pals, welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar on disability inclusion will be on ICT matters and how to make our documents accessible to all and be inclusive of any colleague. My name is Luigi de Munnik. For those who do not know me, I'm the Regional Admin Officer and Regional Coordinator for Business Operations Strategies for Asia Pacific. Today in the call we have Heba Khalif from Cairo. And if I understand correctly, we're also joined by Unju Lee from the RC office in Jakarta. Without much further ado, let's get started. Heba, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Luigi. Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome to the 5th webinar on inclusive ICT, creating accessible digital content, which is the last webinar that we are going to be holding on May, the Global Accessibility Awareness Month. So welcome to this webinar. Today we are going to discuss, if you could move to the next slide, please. Today we are going to discuss the concept of creating accessible digital content. We're going to start by disability definitions. Then we're going to highlight the difference between disability and accessibility. Then we will move to describe information access, web accessibility, and then we will conclude by giving some practical examples on how to make office documents and websites more accessible to persons with disabilities. Next slide, please. So persons with disabilities are people who have long-term physical, sensory, mental, or intellectual impairments, which in interaction with various barriers can hinder their full and effective participation on an equal basis with others. This is the CRP definitions of persons with disabilities. Also, there are 1 billion people with disabilities worldwide, 80 to 90% of which are of working age, but unfortunately are facing higher rates of unemployment due to the inaccessibility of the physical or digital environments. Women with disabilities face even higher rates of unemployment when compared to men with disabilities. Next slide, please. So accessibility is defined as the quality of being usable. If you are able to speak with or reach or enter or use a building or a software, that means that this software is accessible. So for instance, if you were to enter a building and this building doesn't have a ramp on the main entrance, so this building will not be accessible to you. If you are trying to use to open a file and you don't have a program on your PC associated with this file, so that means that the file is not accessible to you. But if you installed the appropriate software, you would be able to use this file. So that's why there's a strong relation between accessibility and disability. So in the next slide, you can see that there's a video that explains the relationship between disability and accessibility. It's a 3-minute video, so I don't know. Can we play it, Luigi, please?
Okay, let me give it a shot. Yeah.
Happy APO for the hotel.
we finished the video, Heba.
Yes, thank you. So in this video, I think they were presenting like a city, and this city is supposed to be accessible only to persons with disabilities, or at least this is how I understood from the video. So that explains that disability is not an inherent feature of the person. It results from the interaction between barriers and impairments. Next slide, please. So information access is the ability to be able to identify, retrieve, and use information effectively on an equal basis with others. And this information accessibility will enable persons with disabilities to participate in the different aspects of life, economic, political, and in order to also to advance their standards of living and to be more aware of the topics and the issues that involve them and the issues in their community. Next slide, please. So in the CRPD, Article 2, it defined or it mentioned several types of accessible communication. It ranges from spoken language, written language, sign language, braille, human readers, using assistive and augmentative communicational devices, like devices that use something we call text-to-speech and speech-to-text technology, to enable persons with various functional limitations to communicate effectively. Next slide, please. So these are some of the essential components that can provide content accessibility. So the content accessibility is not only the responsibility of the disability inclusion focal person or the disability inclusion officer. It's the responsibility of everyone. Content producers and content developers will have to make sure that they develop their content in an accessible way. Also, content editors, they have to ensure that their content is structured in a way that will provide more accessibility to persons with disabilities. Quality assurance personnel will have to integrate accessibility as another criteria in which they use to assess the quality of their products from digital content. So everyone is responsible actually for creating digital accessible content. Next slide, please. So the Web Accessibility Standards, which is an international standard developed by the World Wide Web or Web Accessibility Initiative, revolves on 4 principles, which we can abbreviate in the word POUR. It means that any web content should be perceivable by everyone, operable by everyone, understandable by everyone, regardless of their cognitive abilities, and robust, meaning that it can behave the same way regardless of the web browser or the operating system that we are using to access this content. So in order for us to have complete accessibility of our digital content, there are a number of interrelating factors that govern this process. First, we have to have assistive technology in like screen readers for persons with disabilities. And we have to have something we call user agent, which is the software that we use in order to access the content, like the web browser or the Microsoft Office applications or the operating systems. All these user agents or software has to be designed in an accessible manner. And the structure of the content itself has to be accessible. Next slide, please. So I want you to take 2 to 3 minutes to try to navigate to your favorite website, but without using your mouse or your trackpad at all. You can open your browser. You can use the tab key to navigate between the different links. You can use the enter key to activate the links. You can use up and down arrow keys to scroll up and down the pages. So if you want, when you open your browser, if you want to navigate to your favorite website without using your mouse, all you have to do is to press Alt+D and then this will bring up the address bar. Then you can start typing the website that you would like to navigate to. So I'll give you 3 minutes to do that, and please feel free to share your reflections either on the chat, or you can ask for us to raise your hand and we will allow you to unmute yourself.
So we have in the chat the comments from Ariana saying, I'm not managing to get out of Teams and into the browser using tab key.
So if you are not able
Alt
to manage, sorry?
With Alt Tab. Can you use Alt and Tab keys to switch between applications?
You can always press Windows key plus R, which would bring up the Run dialog box, and you can start typing directly the website that you wish to visit. If you like, I can share my screen and show you a demonstration of how to use the keyboard to navigate through the website. If you want me to do that, please indicate in the chat.
So there are some more chats in the box, like Juliet was sharing reflection. I could not scroll down the page. Bruce says, this is fantastic. Eduardo commenting, frustrating. I couldn't open a single email in Gmail.
Yes, you see, because if the site is not built in a way that is that would allow persons with disabilities to navigate using the keyboard, this will be really inaccessible for them. This is why it's very important to make websites accessible. So I will share my screen now, and then I will show you how to use the keyboard to navigate an open website, like let's say the Gmail, for instance. So let me.
I've stopped
now you
sharing.
can
You can share your screen. Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Luigi. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
So all I have to do is, as I said, I will open the Run dialog box, and then I will type in the URL. So now I have to sign in with my username and password. And in order for me to do that, the screen reader landed on the first edit box, which is where I have to type into my email. So ideally, I will type in my email now, and if I hit the tab key, it should move me to the next box, which is the password, or the forgot email, sorry. And then I have to tab till I reach the next, and I will hit the next, and then I will move to the next page. So that means that this website can be operable using the tab key and the keyboard. So that means this website has an accessibility measure in place. So if I, for instance, I will go to another website, which is really accessible. Now I went to the BBC website. Oh, it doesn't want to open the website.
I forgot to see. Yep.
Really? So first thing we have is the accessibility links. This website provides some accessibility options that are only visible when we navigate using the tab key or for people with the screen readers. So it has, for example, a skip to main content link, which is this link. I hope you can see it. If I press enter on this link, it will skip all the headers of the page and it will move directly to the main body of the page so that users wouldn't have to read all the information in the page header. Because the way the screen reader interacts with web pages is that it reads everything from left to right, top to bottom. So it will start by reading the header information first, and then after finishing the header, it will move to the main body, and after finishing the body, it will move to the footer. So all these items will be read in a linear kind of structure. So you can imagine if I want to reach the main body of the page directly without really having to read all the information presented in the header, and there's no accessibility mechanism in place that would enable me to do that, this will take a lot of time from me to read all the information that I really don't need. So organizing the document into hierarchical structure by using headings and subheadings is very important. So for instance, the screen reader provides some functionality that if I press the letter H, it will move me straight away to the first heading on the page. So I'll go ahead and press H. So now I'm in the first heading, which is welcome to the BBC, which is at heading level 2. Any items after that or any subsections will have to be heading level 3 for the page to be structurally correct or logical order. So now I moved to the next piece of news and it's at heading level 3. So the screen reader provides a mechanism for users to move between the headings using heading levels. So if I only want to move to the heading level 3 items, I will press the number 3 on my number pad. If I want to move to only headings, main titles at heading level 2, I will press the number 2 key. So this is the second thing. So the page is well structured. The third thing is the alternative text to images. So for instance, if I have any image in the page, a short descriptive text is provided in order to enable me to understand what this image is about. So I'll go ahead and press the letter that will help me to move between the graphics. So here it's a picture of a vehicle in North Korea, correct? The picture that I'm focusing on. Can you see it?
Sorry, yeah, no. North Korea says spy satellite launch failed. Is that what you mean?
Yes, this one. So there's a picture of a spacecraft or something, and the alternative text that the screen reader is providing explains this information for me, although I don't see the picture. If I move to another picture, for instance, here, it's a picture of someone called Joshua Bengio, I think. I hope you can see the picture.
We see a picture and it says AI Godfather feels lost over life's work,
Yes.
but I don't know the name of the person.
Yeah, that's the name of the person in the alternative text. So the image description is explaining to me the name of the person in the text. So in this page, as I said, I can navigate with the tab key, no problem, and I can scroll up and down with the arrow keys because the keyboard, the page is operable by the keyboard. And if I used this page from my mobile phone, it will behave the same way, although another operating system is used. Or if I used another web browser like Google Chrome, for instance, I'm now using Microsoft Edge, the page will behave the same too. So that's what we mean by the Web Accessibility 4 principles. I will stop sharing now. Luigi,
Do
can
you want me to
please
reshare?
reshare?
Yeah, okay.
Yes, please.
Sorry, which slide are we now?
Slide 13.
Exercise 1. So example
No,
of
we
an
finished this
accessible
one.
website. Yeah. What is assistive technology?
And yes. So assistive technology is any software or device that is used by persons with disabilities to overcome their functional limitations or their impairments, or overcome their challenges, just like the screen reader I'm using. Some people with low vision or some vision limitation might use a screen magnifier, which is another piece of software that magnifies the computer screen. Some users with speech impairment would use a technology called text-to-speech. So they would type in the information by text, and then the device or the software is going to produce this information into audio formats, as we will see. Next slide, please. So PDF files are one of the most commonly used files on the internet. We use them in all our websites to upload non-editable information. The problem with PDF files is that if they are produced from an inaccessible Word documents, or if they are produced from scanned images, they will not be accessible at all. They will be unreadable by screen readers. But if these PDF files are produced in an accessible manner, they can be quite easy to use. So we will see in the next slide, please, some general tips that we can. First of all, we will explain about the different fonts, and then we will explain some general tips that we have to use in order to make our Word documents accessible. So in the next slide, you can see two images of texts. In your opinion, which one is more accessible, the large font or the small font text? You can write your reflections in the chat.
So Eduardo, Budi, Bente, Cipripon, Diana all says large. Diana Musana large. Makaha Teresa said number 2, which is large. Bruce also says large.
I think the vote is unanimous.
Yeah, everybody's
all right. So,
large.
Sorry, everybody is saying the large text. So I'm afraid that I will have to disappoint you, and it doesn't have to be the large text, unfortunately, because it depends on the visual limitation of the person in question. So sometimes, if a person has some limitation in the peripheral vision, they would need large text because they can only see in the center. The peripheral vision has they can only see. Sorry, if a person has a problem in their central vision, so they only can see from the sides, they would need larger text, because when the text is large, it can be readable by the periphery of their vision. But if the person has a problem in their peripheral vision and they can only see exactly in the center of their field of vision, they would need smaller text. So if a person has what we call tunnel vision, which is as if you're looking at a text from a camera hole, the hole is very small, so you will need the text to be small in order to read it. But if the text is large, you wouldn't be able to read it. So that's why it is important to provide in our web pages and social media pages customizable size options, so that users can make the font larger or smaller depending on their visual limitations. So it's not necessarily the larger font. It can be either the large or the small. All right, so now this next slide explains what we mean by the navigation software that we can use to magnify the computer screen. When you're producing any document, make sure to activate the built-in screen magnifier in the Microsoft Windows and increase the zoom level on your document to make sure that this document is readable even when using a high zoom level. In the next slide, this explains the exercise that you have to do in order to activate the magnification feature. And in the following slide, slide 18, we are going to discuss, or these are some general tips which we can use to create accessible content, like we explained before, having hierarchical structure, headings and subheadings, having alternative text to images, use simple document layout, use high color contrast between the foreground and the background colors, and use clear descriptive section titles. So whenever you're producing a document, don't just say section 1, chapter 1. This is not very descriptive. Use descriptive row and column headers for tables so that screen reader users would understand what this column or row represents. In the next slide, these are some pictures for tips to create accessible Word documents, and I will hand over from here to Yunju, who is going to show us an example of how can we remediate an inaccessible document into an accessible one. Over to you, Yunju.
Thank you, Heba. So I will maybe share my screen and share the presentation file, which has 2 versions of slides.
I love the
Heba,
slide.
do you want me? Yes. Heba, do you want me to showcase the accessibility checker and the reading order pane, or do you want me to follow your instruction on the page?
So sorry, Yunju, can you were breaking up?
Would you want me to showcase the accessibility checker and the reading pane or the order myself, or would you want to instruct and then I show the screen?
No, can you please do it?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So usually, for personally, how I try to make presentation accessible is first with the accessibility checker. So in any Microsoft Office or Adobe products and so on, you can just basically search for the accessibility checker and run it. Usually it gives you what kind of components are inaccessible or need your attention to review. For instance, this slide that we have now has a lot of components that is design graphics without having any like meaning but if you read with a screen reader, it will read out everything like freeform 1, oval 9, oval 10, and so on, which is quite not accessible. How you can like edit it, I will show you. So like one way is just, by clicking all these checker and just mark as decorative, which will remove from the reading order from the accessibility. With the assistive technology, or you can just go with the reading pane order, either by clicking from the accessibility checker, or you can also just type in the reading order pane, display reading order pane, which will basically give you the same result. And then check from there. So like, are these something with the, so for those that already shows that it is decorative, you can just mark decorative so that it's not being read by assistive technology tools. And then for those that does not that does have meaningful text or like graphics that you need to explain what is implying or trying to deliver, you can shift the reading order just by scrolling down the text box from the reading order pane. So this version that we're now seeing would be the accessible version, because we have removed all the decorative images from out of the reading order. And then for the text, you have the title first, and then the order is, as you see, kind of accordingly shown in the pane. Yeah, I think for presentation, that would be it from my side. And then would it be my turn now to present on how the UN Indonesia?
If we can just explain the word files, the accessibility or lack of the word files and the word tables. Okay, so for the word files, it's important when you're creating tables to make them as simple as possible, to use not use empty columns or empty rows. Do not use numbered columns and rows, because this will present accessibility issues. As we've seen in the presentation, try to put alternative text to images and mark any other images as decorative if they do not add any new information. The only instance where you need to add alternative text to a decorative image is that if this image is a logo of the organization. If this logo is repeated throughout your presentation, you can provide the alternative image description once in the first slide, for instance, and mark all the logo in the upcoming slides as decorative, because you don't need to mention the logo again. You just need to mention it once. And the same goes for the Word documents if you have the logo in the footer of the document, for instance, or in the header of the document. So this is all, yes, do not use a lot of blank lines between the paragraphs. You can use one blank line to separate the different paragraphs. And when you are using headings and subheadings, you be sure to use the Microsoft Word standard heading structure styles. You can activate it from activating the style from the ribbon and select the H1 for the main title, the H2 for the subtitle following that, and they start from H1 to H6. So now, yes.
Interrupt. So are we having any presentation right now to show, or just?
I was going to ask, what do you want me to present now?
The slide about tips for creating a Word document, please.
Tips for creating Word documents. I have Excel, I have PowerPoint.
Yes, we've all right. So we actually went through the Word document and we went through the PowerPoint document with Yunjo. So in the Excel document, the last thing I'm going to discuss here, in the Excel document, as we said, if you can use simple table styles. Avoid merging or splitting cells. Avoid empty rows and columns. Make sure that your data starts on the A1 cell, because if you start your data in the Excel sheet later in the sheet, the users will not be able to know exactly when the data will start and when it will end. Avoid protecting or locking the Excel sheets, because this makes it very hard for screen reader to navigate protected sheets. It will not move smoothly between the different rows and columns, and it will only start reading the header row and the header and the first row, and will not move to the next rows. Make sure to select descriptive names when you're renaming your sheets. So do not use the generic or default sheet names like sheet 1 or sheet 2 or sheet 3. Try to choose more descriptive names. And provide alternative text for any visual items. If you have a data chart, if you have a graph or some chart, be sure to provide some data table that describes what this chart is trying to convey through using a data table. And here in this link, because most of us are using Microsoft Excel as the spreadsheet program, this link can explain more about how to use accessible Excel or how to produce accessible Excel sheets. So now in the next slide, we already covered how to create accessible PowerPoint presentations. And the only thing I want to add is avoid using animations because it makes the slides inaccessible. You can use a logical tab order in the slide objects. So always make sure that the title slide is marked as the title. Some people might use a text box and just make the font in this text box bigger, but the text box itself is not marked as a slide title. So the screen reader will not be able to predict that this is the title of the slide and will make the reading of the PowerPoint file difficult. Avoid using tables within the PowerPoint because it's very difficult to navigate the table inside the slide. And always choose accessible fonts. Sans serif fonts are the most accessible, and limit your color palette to only four colors per slide maximum. So the maximum colors are 4 colors. And also do not use color alone as a means of distinguishing information. So if you want to use color, make sure to use another form like underline or bold in order to make this information distinguishable. You can save your presentation in an alternative format, like without pictures or without any animations, and distribute it to persons with disabilities who are using screen reader as an alternative accessibility measure. Always test. Yes.
I'm sorry. There is a question in the chat from Bente. Why should there be only 4 colors?
Because some users will have difficulty distinguishing between the different colors you present. Like for example, users who are colorblind, some have some difficulty differentiating between different color combinations like gray and blue, gray and purple, or different shades of blue. Some people also who are neurodiverse would be overstimulated if they are presented with a document with a lot of colors. And this might result in them not reading the document and just giving up. So that's why having a lot of colors might be a little bit disturbing for some people. Thank you very much, Inju. All right, there is a free screen reader that is built in on the Microsoft Windows, which is called Microsoft Narrator. You can activate this screen reader and use, as we said, use the tab key, use the arrow keys, use the keyboard to navigate your PowerPoint document or your Word document to make sure that they are accessible before distributing them. And there's another free and open source screen reader. It's called NVDA. And this is the link of the program. You can also use this screen reader if you want to test your content. So when you're creating PowerPoint presentation and you're searching for a template, be sure to search for accessible template. So in the search box of your PowerPoint, just write in the word accessibility or accessible template, and all the list of the templates that that are going to come in the results are going to be accessible. And this is another link that is provided by Microsoft Support that you can consult if you want to create your PowerPoint in an accessible format. So I will move to Yunjo, over to you. Now she's going to explain what Indonesia or what accessibility measures that are implemented by Indonesia in order to make sure their content and their digital ecosystem is accessible. Over to you, Yunjo.
Thank
Should
you,
I be
Heba.
presenting anything?
No, I will maybe present from my side. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So maybe I can give a bit of background So Indonesia is one of the 10 country offices that is piloting disability inclusion strategy for the phase 0, which will be extended to phase 1, phase 2 to 40 to 131 UNCTs in the longer term. We're having a lot of activities, not only on ICT, but also on HR, services, the physical accessibility, as well as have 3 other programmatic projects. Inclusive ICT is one of those project lines that we are piloting a lot of different activities. How we approached it was to have a baseline assessment, and based on this assessment had a bit of action plan with around 20 activities that was discussed with OMTs. We had 2 training sessions in January with Heba on digital accessibility, on how quite similar to today's training for the first one, and then secondly on accessible meetings. We were trying to raise awareness with the RC's speech and emails, so to engage more people. And we have set up a disability inclusion and accessibility advocate network who's voluntarily subscribing to different activities to advocate for the issue. We also had a bit of analysis report combining recommendations on the UN Indonesia website, which was sent by the RC to the DCO. So, like, as the result of the assessment, we had the result that, you know, basically shows that we need a lot of efforts to improve these. And we set up an action plan with 2-year period, with a goal to ensure equality of access to UN digital content for everyone, not only for external public users of assistive technology, but also like for internal use, like for staff with disability, which will be increasing more and more. So we're trying to shift the process and policy, also build competencies, culture, and strengthen collaboration partnership in various levels. Like, this is a very long list of activities just to show you the examples. I will share the copy of the action plan in case anybody is interested. Under the disability inclusion strategy, we actually have a lot of guidelines that specifying and giving clear checklist that we can already adopt in daily practices, but I think not many colleagues from different agencies are aware of this. So from our CEO side, we're trying to again and again share these resources with the different groups, OMT, UNCG, etc. So, for example, I think one of the commitment from UNCG is very remarkable. They committed officially that they will, by Q3 of this year, do ensure 4 things. Like 1, to implement the alternative text for all photos on their websites, the social media. This is relating to 22 agencies that is in Indonesia. So also to add subtitles to all videos, usually on YouTube. And also make hashtags accessible. This is by using Camel Case. I can also maybe share later example page. And I think the last one is most significant. Ensure that all documents uploaded to the website has gone through the accessibility checks and passed it. So so I think this commitment can be also, done in individual levels or teams as well. Not only for communication teams, but also like within the teams, maybe we can commit to, okay, maybe for our Twitters or internal documents, reports, minutes, whatever format and documents we have, we can try to commit to something like this. That's very clear, I think, and maybe require a bit of habitual change. But yeah, my recommendation would be start with your team, like try to use heading structures. This is, I think, good practices not only for accessibility, but also to for the documentation and so on. It's quite a good practice, and try to check with accessibility checkers in daily work processes. I think we did training with Heba. Thank you, Heba, for that. Training really helps people understand why and what they should be doing to make the workplace as well as our work disability inclusive in digital spaces. We had more than 200 staff from UN in Indonesia who were in those 2 trainings, and I hear it's quite larger number than other countries. I think this is because we set up an automatic certificate generator to, so for persons who were there till the end of the training, we give a Google form. We share a Google form where if they type it in their names and email, it automatically generates an automatic certificate. And I think especially for junior level staff, that's it can be motivation. And yeah, recommend to disseminate the available resources. And again, I will share maybe the link in the chat. And also to engage the leadership, different group of people for their commitments would be my recommendation. So I will stop sharing my presentation for now, and then I will maybe share in the chat the link to the shared folder that I created for sharing resources here. And then also a guide on how to make automatic, certificate generating Google Forms in case you're interested to, also test this kind of training sessions with your team. Thank you very much. Back to you, Heba.
Thank you very much, Yunju. That was really very informative and very practical and concrete steps made by Indonesia. So if you have colleagues, if you have any questions, please feel free to write down in the chat or raise your hand and we will allow you to unmute.
All right, people, don't be shy. Well, Heba, I guess you were super clear.
Okay.
There's no questions
So
or hands being raised.
all right. Okay, thank you, Luigi. All right, if we just reshare my presentation, because there are a couple of points I want to discuss with colleagues, and they are very important when they are developing their action plan, to include all people with disabilities. If we move to slide, let me see. There was one colleague asking about the low vision, the palette of colors that we should use, or why should we use maximum 4 colors. So if we move to the device 23, this shows you how the person with a visual impairment or has some visual limitation would see when we provide a lot of colors. So this T-shirt, I think it shows some of the color combinations that are used by persons with low vision. So this is also shows a form field in a web page, and if this form field is indicated by only using the color alone, if this form field is not correctly filled, this will not make it accessible for either for people with color blindness or for people who are using a screen reader. So when you are considering your action plans, consider other disabilities. Next slide, please. For example, people with hearing impairment also would make use of some content accessibility measures. For example, the subtitles that Yunju mentioned, or a text-to-speech app that could be installed on the computer that can be used by persons with hearing impairment to communicate. Next slide, please. Also, people with cognitive impairment would make use of content accessibility, and you can make your web page use easy read language or plain language so that people with cognitive impairment will be able to understand. And also using clear, simple layout document will make it also easy to understand by people with cognitive impairment. Next slide, please. There are other alternative of non-editable accessible format that you can use to publish your documents other than PDF. Because PDF has some accessibility issues, as we mentioned. We can publish our document using something called DAISY, which is very accessible, and it's produced and developed by a consortium of libraries and associations for people with print disabilities. You can also use Accessible EPUB, which is another form of DAISY. And I can present you in the additional. There's in the additional resources there are links to the Accessible EPUB and Accessible DAISY. This DAISY form used to be played on the something like a CD player, and in this DAISY standard, users are able to navigate to the content by selecting a particular page or a particular section, or even search the content by word, and it combines both audio and textual content together. So the book or the material or the document that we are producing in DAISY can be produced by audio using human narration and by text that are synchronized together. So this enables people who have learning disabilities or dyslexia also to understand the document. Next slide, please. eBraille is another format of non-editable accessible formats. This format is used by Braille devices, which are devices that are connected to the computers and smartphones. and this converts any information presented in the computer screen into Braille read electronic Braille. So if you have any files that are produced in the ABraille format, these could be very accessible. And there are a number of software that is commercially available or even open source software that can convert your document from a Word document to an accessible Braille file. Next slide, please. So that's all from my side. In the end, since we're approaching our end of our presentation, I'd like you to think of the main takeaway from the session. Also, what are the immediate actions that you will start doing immediately after the end of this presentation in order to make or to contribute into providing more accessible digital content? Any ideas or any chats?
Kunjo, I can't see anything. Could you help out, please?
Sure. So Bente just commented to ensure that there's alt text for all image visuals in all document files that we produce. Eduardo says awareness about the importance of making publications accessible.
Thank you so much. So now I will reshare my screen again because we have some time on our hands. I'd like to show you a sample of an inaccessible PDF file and how can we remove or remediate this file into an accessible format. So I will go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, and meanwhile, there are more comments. One from Eduardo again, applicability to include this in the UNON publications workflow. I think that would be a significant change. Juliet says, thank you. We do a lot of PPT presentations and I will raise awareness to colleagues on this important topic. Yeah. Over to you again, Eva.
Thank you, Injo. So this is a PDF file. As you can see, it's incomprehensible because this was a scanned PDF that is a result of displaying a scanned image. So when you are only having a scanned image and saving it as a PDF file, this will not make it readable. Some people would take a scanned image that contains text and insert this scanned image into PowerPoint presentations or Word documents, which also makes it not accessible. So first thing, we have to do something we call OCR this image. So we have to have a software that would enable us to transfer this from an image to a text. How do you know that we're presented with a scanned image or an editable text? Try to select any of the content or part of the displayed text in the screen. If this text is selected, so this is an editable format. But if the text is not selected, unselectable, so this is a scanned image. So now I will open another PDF file. I was opening it, but for some reason I kind of lost it. Let me open it again. So when we first open any PDF file, especially if we're using a screen reader, we would find an option to change the document reading order. So this is why it is very important for the PDF to be what we call tagged or use tags. And these tags are the styles that we use when we are producing the document from our Word document. Before saving it as a PDF, we apply the correct styles, because these styles are going to be interpreted by the PDF reader as tags. So this is a kind of a document, and it has a lot of headings and subheadings and titles and so on. Let's see if this document is tagged. If this document is properly tagged, whenever I press the letter H, it should move to the first heading of the page. So when I press the letter H now, the screen reader is informing me that there are not headings on this page. So that means that the page, there's no heading tags in the page. So although the page has titles, they are not marked. They are not marked correctly. So for instance, let me try another thing. I now try to move to the different graphics of the page. So when I press the letter G to move between the graphics, the screen reader can only read some non-comprehensible numbers like 15 graphics, 18 graphic, 26 graphic. I don't know what these numbers stand for. So clearly there is no text alternative that is used to describe the images that are presented in this file. So what do I do in order to make this file accessible? I will copy this file and I will open a Word document. And I will paste this file into here. So first I want to make the title of the document into a heading 1, because this is the main title. So I have one of the two solutions. Either I activate the ribbons, click on the home ribbon, and then search for the styles. Click on the styles and choose H1. Heading 1. So now, as you can see, the title of the document it changed from just a plain text to a heading 1. All right, so if I want to do another, select another part and make it as a heading 2, for instance, let me see. Let me pass this copyright notice.
Meanwhile, maybe I can read one question from the chat, Heba.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, there was a question from Adwa on what is to be done to make accessible the documents generated from SAP, for example, solicitation documents. So I think for automatic generated documents.
Yeah, for automatically, what kind of, yes, what kind of document extension is it? Like, is it a Word document? Is it a PDF? Because I'm not really familiar with the system automated platforms that could automate documents. Do you mean the Power BI that is used to like the dashboards and so on? Is this what you mean?
Padma says mostly PDF or Word. So I think the reports that sometimes are generated from the ERP systems.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so if they are PDF files, you can use a program that is called Adobe InDesign. And this Adobe InDesign can be used to add some tags to the documents, like the headings and the alternative text and so on. And also can be used to mark images as artifacts or as decorative. So you can, if you have a document that is in Adobe PDF, you can use Adobe InDesign. But if you have a document in a Word document, this is much easier. You can use Microsoft Word to edit the style. Or even if you have a PDF document, you can right-click this document, open it in Microsoft Word, and then it will create an editable version of the same document. And you can use Microsoft Word to run the accessibility checker and make the document accessible. And remember that if sometimes the accessibility checker is not enough. So for instance, in this document that I copied, if I run the accessibility checker now, it might tell me that the document is accessible, although there are no headings and subheadings and any logical hierarchical structure of the document. So it is important to test the document either yourself or by persons with disabilities to make sure that it's usable. So now I am in Access Handbook for ILO offices. Let's make this into a heading 2 style or a subtitle. So I'm going to select it and then not content. And then instead of going to the ribbons and selecting the style, the screen reader provides a shortcut key for me, which makes things a little bit easier. I'll go ahead and press Alt Windows 2, Alt Control 2, sorry. So this will make it into a subtitle. Activating your heading pane in the Word document will enable you to look at the headings of your page. I'm trying to activate it. Till I'm activating the heading panes, if you have any questions or if you want to try already opening a document and try to make it accessible, you can go ahead and do that. So let me. So I cannot activate it right now, unfortunately, with the screen reader. But if you're using, if you're showing your heading pane or bring up the list of headings, let me see. I brought up the list of headings using a screen reader, but you can activate this option from the view ribbon, I think, in your Microsoft Word. So this list brings up all the headings inside your document. This is very useful if you want to make sure that you structured your document into a logical hierarchical structure. So you can always use the heading panes. If you want to make sure your pictures have alternative text, all you have to do is just go to the picture. Unfortunately, I can't go to the pictures here because they are not, maybe they did not copy, but you just right click on the picture and check the edit alt text icon and you can add a short description. The accessibility checker can be activated by pressing the F6 key or clicking on the accessibility icon. So for example, I can just need to activate it from here. And here, as you can see, it says that there are no accessibility issues. But as I said, the document had no headings, no page breaks between the different pages, no blank lines to separate the heading from the text. A lot of things that need to be remediated and modified. So the accessibility checker, if you want to use it, it will bring you a list of errors and a list of warnings, and it will present you suggestions on how to fix all these errors and warnings. So that's all from my side. I just wanted to show you a practical example of how to remediate the Word documents using the styles in Microsoft Word. And if you have any questions, please feel free to raise them now. No questions?
I do not see any
so-
hands raised. nor do I see any questions in the chat.
All right, all right. Can we please, Luigi, share the last slide which contains the feedback form? I will also share the feedback link on the chat because your feedback is very important to us and we would really appreciate your feedback. So
I have the slide on screen, the one with the QR code.
yes, please, if you want, you can scan your QR code on the phone and it will open up the feedback page. And I will reshare the links. You could just give me 2 minutes and I will share the link in the chat. So till I share the link, which is the most thing that you found quite a little bit challenging when it comes to provide accessible content?
There was a comment from Padma saying, very explained, thank you. From Bente is a question, is there a similar accessibility checker for Google Docs?
I don't think there is like the one for Microsoft, but in the Google Chrome web browser, it has some accessibility measures to check for the accessibility of the page itself. In the Google Docs, there are some accessibility measures in place, like all the same features, like using styles and so on, and adding alternative text to images and so on. So you can always use these features when you're producing Google Docs. But I can search on the internet, and if I find anything, please you can if you can write your email here, I can get back to you with this on email.
Another comment from Bruce, this is great presentation. It shall help a lot with colleagues.
Thank you. All right, let me. Can you see the feedback form link? Oh, sorry, I copied the wrong thing. So that's another glitch of the screen reader, that it does some errors. Sometimes when you're trying to copy something, it copies a totally different thing.
Bente says, thanks for the answer, and I have not found the same accessibility checker when I've searched. My email is bentem, BENTEM @unops.org, just in case. Juliet says, a wonderful presentation. There are many errors I was making out of ignorance.
Thank you. We all make we all. It's a learning journey for us all. Even I'm a person who is using a screen reader, but at the same time, I do a lot of errors and I keep fixing them. So we are all learning in this together. I hope I pasted the. Oh my God. I keep copying the wrong thing. So I can share with you the feedback after the webinar has ended, because the screen reader is constantly copying the wrong the wrong messages. And I will paste it here in the chat, but please make sure to scan the QR code and try to make it through your phone till I share the correct link. This is one example of when the software is built in an inaccessible manner. Like, for example, Microsoft Teams, which is one of the most widely used online collaboration platforms, it has a lot of accessibility issues. So you can imagine I'm trying to copy something and I press select and copy, but because the cursor jumps in the link in the Teams chat window, it keeps copying the wrong item.
Julia says, I managed to access the feedback form using the QR code. I just tried to share also the link to the QR, the same as the QR code. I
Yes,
hope
please.
that's
don't seem to be able to
Yeah.
do that.
No worries. Satyawati says, me too. I think many were able to access the form with the QR code. Mohammed says, thanks, Heba. Can't thank you enough for those great informative webinars.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. I hope you enjoy listening to the webinar as much as I enjoyed giving and preparing for it, because I'm very passionate about the digital accessibility.
Yeah, really pleasure working with you, Heba, as well, from RCO Indonesia. Yeah, colleagues, also, if you need resources or you know, on different disability inclusion initiatives, we do a lot in, I think, Indonesia, led by RCO. Please do not hesitate to contact me, or yeah, I can share resources.
Thank you, Inju. And I will be sharing the slides with the recording, and the slides contain some additional resources as well that you can use to make your content accessible or to test for the accessibility of your websites.
Shall we conclude this?
Yes, please, Luigi. Thank you very much for all your support in moderating and supporting with this webinar.
No problem at all. Pleasure is all
Thank
mine.
you.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for attending. Please be tuned for next webinar. Heba, what's the next webinar about?
The next webinar next week is about how to create inclusive communication, inclusive multimedia in terms of videos and images, how to make your multimedia accessible.
Fantastic. Everyone, you heard it. Stay tuned for the next one. Okay, bye, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Bye, and thank you very much, Inju. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Heba. Thank you, Luigi.